This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is Ed Cohen. Ed, how's it going?
Good, man. Thank you, Paul, for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just get into it. You're the founder of Mama's Munchies. How did you get into entrepreneurship?
So, really, this all started. I think I was just inclined to get into business at an early age. I actually think about this a lot, but my grandma, growing up, she's Mexican. I used to visit Mexico a lot, and she had a taco stand right in front of the hospital. And looking back on it, now I see how these things come full circle. But essentially, I have very fond memories of being at her taco stand, kind of working the cash register, talking to customers, helping her, go around town. It's a very small town in Mexico, but we would go around town, picking up materials for the stand, negotiating with vendors. So very early on, subconsciously, I kind of really picked up on those things. And that really, I feel like, looking back, was kind of the very early beginnings of me just kind of getting into that mindset. So that was probably the really inception of how I progressed over time. But as you grow up, and I grew up here in Miami, Florida. When you're growing up, you see a lot of things in the world as a child that you don't know how to attain. And so as a kid, you're not making money as a kid, but you see adults walking around, buying things, whether it's a car, whether it's experiences like going to Disney, whatever it may be. And I always was curious as to, how you get those things. So I was always in my mind from an early age trying to connect the dots as, how to manifest those things that you want, whether it's material or from an experience, perspective, traveling, things like that. So I don't know. I was always very attracted to the idea of taking control of your own life and really just pursuing pursuing things that makes you happy and feeling fulfilled. And I always found kind of fulfillment in setting a goal and then trying to reverse engineer how to get there.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
No, it's cool. Like you said, like your grandma was selling like tacos and that's like, you didn't even know at the time when you were little that like kind of probably inspired you to do these type of things. And like,
oh yeah,
and like the same thing, like you're like, even what you were just saying, like, it's kind of crazy. Just like the things that are around us, we don't even realize that influence us basically.
oh, totally. And again, these things are only things that I realize in hindsight, many years later, when I look back at photos of me sitting at her taco stand, counter, these things are all ingrained very early. But it is funny how things come full circle in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. And then I'm assuming obviously you had jobs in the past. So what was that like from going from like working for somebody and now like working for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, going back to the big early beginnings, I grew up seeing my family work very hard. And I think that makes a world of a difference when you have a very firsthand experience of seeing, your mother working endless nights to make ends meet. So I always had that work ethic ingrained in me. So that was a big inspiration for me. But seeing, again, going back to kind of reverse engineering how you can get things. My first job, I wouldn't say was, or one of my first few jobs was really just working at restaurants. I used to work at the Cheesecake Factory. In high school, they had a work program. So, I personally, I was never a fan of school. Um, I did well in school for a long time, and then mentally, I kind of dropped out at some point in high school because I was a very good student. I was by the book. That's how I was raised. Was study, work hard, go to college, and follow that traditional path of of escalating in society. Um, and and for some reason, I always felt that didn't really resonate with me. So there was always this struggle in my own mind as to conforming to the traditional route that you're supposed to go through, and following my own intuition as to what I believed was I wanted to do. Um, so going back to the job question, yeah, one of my first jobs was official jobs was in high school. There was a work program where you could actually leave school early. So I would do a few classes in the morning, and I was out of school by 10 a.m. This was my senior year of high school. And at 10 a.m., I would shoot over to the Cheesecake Factory, and I was a busboy. So I was working double shifts in high school. And that was just physically and emotionally draining. But it was a great learning opportunity because, I was able to really generate some savings for myself at that age, because I really didn't have much at the time. And so I was trying to think of my next steps after graduation. Prior to that, I had actually worked at Jamba Juice, working the counter. I worked at Cold Stone selling ice cream. Um, so a lot of odd jobs here and there, but it gave me enough little bit of cash so that I could start, you know, getting the things that I wanted. One of the first things I bought was a gym membership, from my Cold Stone job. And I specifically remember being very proud of that, because now I could start focusing on my fitness and things like that. So I always liked the idea of just taking control of my own life, and those jobs really, again, going back to the full circle thing, they teach you a lot, with lessons that you utilize later in life.
Yeah, for sure. So, what year was it that you started Mama's Munchies, and why did you start that?
So Mama Munchies was started in 2020, and it happened really out of nowhere. Um, Really, the catalyst for Mama Munchies was COVID, and March 2020 rolled around. I was doing film production in Los Angeles, doing music videos, some commercials, and the production world essentially came to a halt overnight. And because of that, I was out of work, like many people were. Initially, we thought it was going to be a 2-week thing, so I kind of wasn't too stressed. I was kind of, just doing what everyone else was and kind of just feeling it out for a couple weeks, and then I kind of took that time to really just reflect, and I was exercising a lot, just trying to figure out what my next moves were going to be. And at the time, I had no idea, March 2020, no idea that this was going to happen. Um, but an old business partner of mine and I were texting. We're always bouncing ideas off of each other. I've known him for about 10 years, and we've been working together for that long. And we had this idea to create a antimicrobial tool. And this tool, it was made out of copper. Copper is naturally antimicrobial. So we had this idea to release this product. It was going to help people navigate COVID, by not touching things. Everyone was very afraid to touch things. We saw a Kickstarter online for, it was called, I forget the name exactly, but essentially it was a small keychain tool that you could open doors with. And had a touch point kind of thing. You could use it as a stylus for your phone, an ATM, whatever it was. But we noticed on the Kickstarter that the lead time was about 3 months. And we looked at each other and we're like, man, we could do this in 2 weeks. We can get this out. So essentially we just started hitting the phones, finding vendors, people who can manufacture the product. I made a quick mock-up on my iPad, and within a couple weeks we had it on the market. We were selling it on eBay to begin with, then we got it onto Amazon, and we just tested it out at the apartment that I was in. I was receiving the raw cut out pieces, and I was polishing them in my apartment on the patio, and the sales started coming through, and before you knew it, I'm caught up in this kind of business that I wasn't expecting. And every day I'm going to the post office every morning, sending out the shipments. And that kind of led to 3 months later, we sold, the small business to a business broker out of Chicago. He bought us out. He was also in a situation where he owned gyms. And so he was the gyms were all closed. So he was trying to dabble into Amazon, eBay, all this kind of outlets, the e-com world. So he took it off of our hands, and that was a quick little project that we did within about 3 or 4 months. And from there, we rolled that cash into other products, a CBD brand. So we started a CBD CPG company, infusing maple syrup and maple sugar with CBD. And that was really the first, I guess, inklings of what would become Mama Munchies. Because that's really what got my head revolving around the whole cannabis and all the cannabinoid world, the benefits of hemp and cannabis. And that's really what led down a series of events that eventually started Mama Munchies.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy and dope. It's just like a lot of stuff happened to people in 2020. I feel like it, especially for like entrepreneurs and business people, have made them like think differently and figure out new ways to make money and things like that.
Right.
And then that turned into your whole other business, which is crazier. So that's dope. And then what has it been like, opening up a storefront and having responsibilities like things like that?
Yeah. So the storefront itself, it's interesting because this industry is so new in many ways, at least as it stands now. Cannabis has been around for thousands of years, but in the way that you're seeing it unfold at the moment, worldwide and in the country, I feel like everyone's kind of trying to figure out where it fits into the marketplace, myself included. And when we first started this store, going back to the little keychain tool we produced, it was also very unexpected. When we started that CBD sugar infused brand, we really didn't know anything in terms of like what the market wanted. So throughout the sales process of selling the CBD brand, we realized that CBD was already being pushed so much that it was kind of overpromised and underdelivered in many ways throughout the last years prior to that. And when we would go out and sell our product, we got a lot of feedback in terms of what people wanted, and CBD wasn't really that per se. And so the store came about because we were actually selling our product to smoke shops. And one day we were in Austin, Texas, and we came around a shop who had a product that was it was a brownie and a cookie, and I thought it was CBD, and it did have some CBD in it. But we were on our sales trip. I bought one. This was a sales account that we were trying to go in and close on, and we're on the road doing our sales. I eat this cookie, and about an hour later, I'm starting to feel something, and so I look over at Stefan, my business partner, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, I think I feel something. Like I think I'm getting a little buzz on this." And he looks at me and he says the same thing. And so we realized, we're like, how is this a thing? So I call up the store. He says, no, 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 this has THC in it. Um, so I'm like, wow, how is this legal? How is this a thing? And so that was really the first transition from us pivoting from CBD to THC infused products, all hemp derived. But it really was the catalyst for me diving deeper and doing more research on every aspect of cannabis. And so we pivoted very quickly. We started doing our THC infused products, and then we just started going out and trying to sell it. And what we quickly realized also was, in the sales process, it was a very tough thing to sell. Because cannabis in general has always been very restricted, and we didn't realize the challenges we were facing with regulation, with compliance, and all those elements. And so it's been a very big learning process, even to this day. Um, but when we were selling these products, we didn't realize how hard it was going to be to actually sell it, because of those factors. And so the store came about out of more of necessity, to control our own distribution than anything, because it was a tough sell at the time. This was 2020, late 2020, um, early 2021. And through that realization, I realized that we did need to control our own distribution, and opening the retail store was a part of that, where we could actually create this environment and this experience where customers could come in and we could explain the product, to the best of our knowledge, and not leave it up to the other retailers that we were trying to sell, who didn't really even want to take on the product at the time, you know. So yeah, it was more born out of necessity than anything, the retail store.
Gotcha. And then, I guess going back a little bit, what was the process of, actually making these products, like the gummies and the cookies, and then we'll get into the drinks after, because I know there's a newer,
Mhm.
but like I know that's like a hard thing for anybody to do, just from scratch.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so like I said, the process was, we had a feel for the market. We were going out selling it, getting feedback from smoke shop owners, different retailers. From a legal perspective, we looked at the laws. So in 2018, they passed what was called the 2018 Farm Bill, and that essentially legalized THC products as long as it's under a certain percentage. Um, and every state has their own laws, of course. But that was the federal bill that was passed in 2018, and I don't know why or how, but I think with COVID being a factor too, maybe there was some sort of, maybe people were just distracted or not really, looking into these things. There was definitely people out there, but it wasn't like it is right now, where everyone's coming out with products nowadays, in that niche. And even bringing in products into our store was difficult, because there weren't many brands or vendors doing it under the hemp vertical. You have medical marijuana, which is its own thing. You have the dispensary model. So really, there was this kind of division between, where do these products fit overall in the market. So even trying to source products into our store was kind of difficult for us, because there wasn't many to bring in. At least that fell under the 2018 Farm Bill. So going back to the retail store, and taking control of our distribution, we ended up having to make and manufacture our own products as well. So I always saw the retail store as kind of like an incubator, because we never really went in with any kind of ideal outcome, or plan in mind, to be honest. We kind of just went with it. We were driving down the road one day. We saw a for lease sign, and a week later we signed it, and we started it on a shoestring budget, and kind of just said, look, we'll see what happens, and we'll see what the customers say, and we'll go from there, and so really we started off with cookies, brownies, some Rice Krispie treats, and just immediately we just started getting feedback from customers, and from there we adjusted. So really from the beginning we just started manufacturing our own products across the board, which in itself has a whole slew of challenges. Manufacturing, I didn't realize how tough manufacturing is. And cookies are a pretty simple thing, but I didn't realize logistically how many factors go into it. So, but yeah, that's how the cookies and our other baked products kind of got us going. Was introducing it in our store.
Gotcha. And then and now you have the THC drinks. So tell me a little bit about that, and then I know it's kind of like you have a separate website for that as well. So are you guys like, how are you guys pushing that as like a whole, it's not like a new brand, but like a whole, just like its own entity?
Yeah, they're all related, but yeah, essentially that is its own, its own brand. I see beverages as it's very going back to the cookies and the baked items that we were doing. That taught us lots of lessons, both from logistically manufacturing, the freshness of the product. We were going through a lot of loss in terms of the items themselves, the shelf life, those kind of things. And beverages have been around for many, many years, canned beverages specifically. And so we realized very quickly that, this product could fit within the same category that we're building. And, logistically, they're great for distribution. There's many, many companies that are distributing drinks, and there are processes in order to get it out there, both from shipping logistics. Metal cans are very logistically conducive to distribution. And so going back to the whole retail store, we always saw the retail store as like almost like a little laboratory, because we can come out with a product and within hours we've got anecdotal feedback from our customers. I could even just stand there and see what a customer's reaching for, and I at least know that they're more attracted to this item than this item. Or I might put out a product here and one here, and then I'll ask people, what do you think about this? Or, do you like this design? Do you, what do you think about the taste? So these things are very, very important in terms of data. And we always want to listen to our customers and, really go with what they want. So throughout this whole process, it's really been, organically grown, and we take all the feedback that we get and we really analyze it, and we try to implement it into the new products that we come out with. And so the drinks, from the very beginning were very popular. Originally they were in plastic bottles. I slapped a label on it, and that's how we did it. And then from there we just kept building, constantly improving it. And so it happened very organically. We, from the very beginning, we didn't really go into this with any kind of preconceived notion as to what it would become. And over time, we've kind of really solidified our vision.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to try the drinks and the cookies. And I thought
nice.
the drinks are very good. Like they don't have any like aftertaste, which I've had other like CBD drinks, not, that do have like a kind of a weirder aftertaste, but these ones, and they taste good. So it was cool.
Cool. Glad you liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so like, what do you see, I guess, for the future? I know like all the states aren't officially have it, I guess, regulated or allowed yet. So I guess, do you guys like have a pinpoint of like dates of like what other states are, and then you're going to like charge after those states too?
Yeah, yeah. So again, the legal landscape is constantly evolving. Every month, it seems like there's a new proposal for a legislative bill or some sort of rulemaking. So that's that again, like I said, that comes with its own world of challenges. And that's just the nature of the business. That's also partly why there is so much opportunity in that space. Um, so we take those challenges. But as far as distribution, really, our main focus right now is Florida because we are a Florida-based brand. Florida, in particular, has a licensing process for hemp-derived products. So really, Florida is going to be our main focus at the moment in terms of distribution. It's been my backyard since I was a kid, and so I know Florida very well. Other states like Minnesota have their own, rules regarding it. They have certain THC caps for the products that they have there, and then you have all the legacy states like Colorado, California, who are definitely the pioneers in this whole thing. But us being in Florida, I see really just zeroing in on the Florida market as the main, market that we're going to distribute. Because I feel like if you focus on the people that are, in your own backyard, naturally you can start expanding outwards. And also from a legal perspective, we know the Florida laws, and every state does have their own different laws regarding hemp-derived products. Even though the bill is a federal bill. But yeah, that's essentially, our route is, we're just going to keep growing it organically, getting the feedback from our customers. And, I love Florida. Florida's a great state. There's a lot of people here who love, the product. And, I think naturally over time, we're going to start seeing that shift nationally, where people, really want to it'll just open up the gates on a whole another level.
Where do you see the state of the cannabis industry going?
I guess that's the $1 million question, right? Literally, it's like I said, everyone knows cannabis has been around forever, and there's, you got to pay respects to all the pioneers who have gotten it to the point that it's at, and so, I think from a long-term perspective, I think I see it being like beer and wine, where it's a more social, kind of recreational experience, where the stigma is removed. When you look back at like the temperance movement back in the 1800s and early 1900s, I think a lot of people forget, but this country went through a period of time where alcohol was illegal. You had to go into back alleys to get it. And I think cannabis is where it's been there. Prohibition has been there for a long time. And it's gotten to the point now where I really do feel in my heart that it's not if, it's when it's going to open up, where it's just not going to be an issue. But until then, there's a lot of work to be done still. And I really just envision this as a type of product that you can just kind of go into any other place that you would find beer and wine, and I think part of that involves kind of finding like where the medical marijuana vertical can merge with the hemp vertical, and I think at some point they're going to converge. It's just a matter of how and when. But I think the very foundational pieces are all there, and there's no doubt that the people want it. It's just a matter of how that fits, and again, that is still a very that's a question that's going to unfold in the coming years. and it's yet to be seen. But I feel very confident about the industry as a whole, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, I mean, Florida is definitely not a bad state to conquer with you guys. I mean, you guys got a great population. Obviously, a bunch of people go there for vacation, so perfect.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the name Mamas, and what's the background about it?
Yeah, I mean the name. It's funny, like with names. Names are always tough to kind of come up with when it comes to like a business or a project. Um, it kind of just came naturally, Everyone has their. I feel like it's a very universal kind of name, In Spanish, mama. That's everyone knows what that means. Uh, English, same thing. You can go pretty much any country in the world, and mama, for the most part, people kind of understand what that means. I have my own reasons. My business partner Stefan, he has his own reasons. He was raised essentially by his grandma. So she's a very big part of his life. For me, I'm very close to my mother, and I always find that there's a lot of power behind the love that a mother can give you. And for me, that was always just going back to my own grandmother, with her taco stand. Like for me personally, these were always my biggest influences in life, and I learned a lot of my work ethic from the mothers in my life, my grandmother and my mother. And it's just something that I feel like people can really resonate with. It's very, uh, homely. It's very inviting, and I think that's kind of partly what will take away from, um, I guess, the stigma in a sense. From the traditional, preconceived notions that most people have about cannabis. You know, so yeah, I think Mamas is very. It just resonates with people in many ways.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, tell me some of the benefits of using like THC and CBD products.
Yeah, so cannabis has hundreds of cannabinoids, is what they're called. Each one has its own kind of different effect. CBD is known to relax you, reduce anxiety, definitely benefits to it. Then you have the THCs, which, um, you know, it- they have its own slew of benefits. They are psychoactive, so you're not going to get. It's a little more. Um, it's a little stronger than CBD, um, but overall, personally, I love it as a way to recover from my workouts, or even as a pre-workout. To be honest, um, there's. I just feel like it's for me. It's always kind of felt like. Um, a way for me to naturally just get into this zone where I can focus. Kind of just makes your day a little brighter, and in the chaos of life, I think everyone needs kind of a way to reset, and whether it's through a beverage, whether it's through um, you know a vape or smoking it, however each person has their own way of consuming cannabis, but however you want to do it as a whole, I think the benefits are unquestionable. And again, it's been around for thousands of years, and so I think there's something to that, the fact that it's been around so long. And I just find it as a very good way to kind of reset, and whether it's physically or mentally, no different than when you sit down at the end of the night and maybe have a beer. There's just something to it that can kind of relax you and get you set for the next thing that's going to come at you in life. So yeah, I definitely see it as an integral part of my daily life, and also for the people that aren't you know daily consumers of it, um, as a recreational product, it accomplishes the same thing. A way to reset, socialize with people, and just replenish your mind, your body, and keep going.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. What are some other projects that you're working on?
So as far as projects, yeah, I feel like Mamas is really just one of many things that I have on in my plans. I always approach things with everything being connected, and one thing that I would love to do is, and I'm gonna do, is integrate giving back through the brand. Um, I feel like, for me personally, I have stories in my own background that have to do with mental health, both in my family, struggles that I've had, and things that I realize many people have throughout the world, millions of people. Um, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's um, you know uh, just general stress. I experienced a few years ago, about 5 years ago, my brother and I went through a very tough experience. My brother passed away from a mental health episode, and going through that whole experience, it really taught me a lot, and it was a very pivotal point in my life where I had to reanalyze what I wanted to do with my time in life. And as time progressed, I realized more and more how much uh, mamas and all the projects that I do have to do with this cause of mental health. um, and so one of the projects that I'm going to be doing very soon is I want to raise funds for mental health awareness. Um, so I'm planning on riding my bike from South Florida to New York City in about 15 days is the goal. But really, the purpose of it, that's the physical aspect of it. But really, the purpose is along the way is to kind of meet with people who are dealing with um, these challenges in mental health, depression, anxiety, suicide, all these kind of things, and kind of just really explore that whole topic. Uh, Meeting with people throughout the East Coast on that trip and getting their perspective on what mental health means and how it affects people on an everyday basis. Um, so that's a project that's in the works, and yeah, I'm really excited for that, and I think that that's kind of the when it comes to business. I think everyone needs a why. When you wake up in the morning and you're tired, and or even late at night when you're drained from all the work that you've been doing. I think those are the kind of things that keep you going. Is the why. And so beyond the Mama's product and beyond all the other things that you do, it's those things that keep you moving and wanting to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. That's dope that you're gonna do that bike ride. You gotta be mamas out, all logos all over the place and stuff. That would be
Uh, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be using the product to keep me going for sure. But no, I mean, no, but it's true though. Like I really do love getting to that mental headspace where you just lose your concept of time. I think fitness in general is very important when it comes to mental health, because at the very foundational level, your body is very important to keeping a sharp and sound mind. You know, so I think there's things that we can all do um, at a very baseline level to kind of help us just keep fresh.
yeah.
Hmm.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs?
Um, that's that's interesting because I still see myself as, even though I've been mentally doing this my whole life, I still see myself as learning all the time. But personally, I feel like just knowing yourself, is very, very important, because even from, that's always going to guide you in life is knowing yourself. You have nobody but yourself to guide you in terms of ultimately making the decisions that you want, right? And I'm very big into journaling and writing out my thoughts, and I feel like that's a very, very key thing in terms of understanding who you are. So I would say, really just take the time to figure out what things you want out of life, because you're always going to have, uh, you know, lots of things coming at you, and trying to, you know, going back to the college thing, I was always told to go to college, and I struggled for a long time trying to battle internally, what the right decision was for me to go in that route. Was it to go to college or to really follow what I felt in my heart was, my path? And, my mother was a first generation immigrant. She got her citizenship when I was, I want to say like 13 or something. Um, so for my family, not going to college was like a big no. And internally, that's something that I had to figure out. I couldn't go to anybody to validate that idea for me. And so, when it comes to advice, I would say it really is just take the time to know yourself, ask yourself the right questions as to what you want out of life, and the rest really will take care of itself. You know, because the alternative to that is going through life going against your instinct and what you desire. You know, which I think can create a lot of anxiety in people. So that was a very broad answer to that, but I think it's those kind of foundational concepts that really matter in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, you ready for a couple of fun questions?
Sure. Yeah, that's it.
All right, if I come down by your area, where do we have to go to check out some food besides Mama's?
Besides Mama's, okay. All right, so man, Miami's got a lot of places. A lot of them are more fancy, I would say. You got the Carbones and all the influencer spots. But to be honest, I like low key spots. I like a good value. I like leaving feeling nice and full and replenished. There's actually, I would say, if you came down, I would take you to Daily Bread. It's a Mediterranean spot in South Miami, and the food's really fresh. You can get hummus, you get a big portion of steak. Um, the beef shawarma is what I get, the platter with a side of salad and two nice warm pieces of pita bread. And then if you want something nice for dessert, they have a whole bunch of like baklavas and tons of desserts. But yeah, it's a very low key place. It's been there forever. But yeah, I could eat there literally every single day. So that's where I would take you, is Daily Bread.
There you go. What's your do you have like any dream collabs or partnerships you'd want to do with the brand?
Dream collaborations.
Like a celebrity using your
Yeah,
product or endorsing it, or
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So actually, one of the biggest things that I would love to do with the brand is integrate music into the brand. Whether it's called Mama's Music or Munch Music, I'm still playing around with those ideas. But
you gotta get Ice Spice then.
what's that?
You gotta get Ice Spice. You know who that is?
Ice Spice? Who is that?
It's
No.
the rapper.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, look, I'm down. Yeah. Any.
Yeah, I'll show you after.
Yeah, I'm down for any, collaboration, but I feel like, again, going back to the whole lifestyle thing, um, music resonates worldwide. And I think personally, it keeps me going, as equally as cannabis does and exercise does. It's one of those things that drives you. It can put you into a completely different headspace, and it's very therapeutic music. Um, so when it comes to, collaborations, any artist, whether you're small or you're big, I would love Mamas to be involved with the music world, because not only does music sound amazing when you're consuming cannabis, but it's one of those things that I feel like it's just an integral part of life, and I truly believe music keeps the world going round. When I'm down on hard times or You know, you just need to put on a good song that you like, and a few minutes later, you're a completely different person. You know, so there isn't really any one particular person, I would say. You know, I would love to work with all the big artists, you know, but you know, personally, I'm a big fan of electronic music. I also love rap. It just depends what mood I'm in. But yeah, like Fred again, he's an artist that I really love. I love to train to his music. Flume. Who else? I mean, there's so many, to be honest. Even just some local friends that produce music. You know, I think that whole process of the music creating process is very, very cool, and I would love, you know, Mamas to be a part of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Last one. If you had 10 minutes to spend with a business person, ask them like any questions you want, who would that person be?
Oh man, 10 minutes with any business person. I don't know if I mean, he's definitely I don't know if you would consider this a business person, but Nikola Tesla is a big inspiration of mine. Um, you know, he's an inventor. He was very well known for, he never wrote down any of his ideas. He would completely come up with the thought and the idea in his mind, and then he would execute on that. And so all of his works and all of his inventions were created just by him essentially thinking them through in his mind. And so for me, I've always been fascinated with Nikola Tesla. You know, in fact, I don't know if you could argue that he wasn't a good businessman because, you know, because of his story. There's a lot that went on between him and Thomas Edison. Thomas would probably have been the better businessman if you were to ask someone. But I think his whole perspective, for me, it's always been a very big inspiration in terms of his way of thinking. So I know it's not a businessman per se, but I think he definitely has that creative spark that many good businessmen have.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, and could you let the listeners know where they can follow you guys at?
Yeah. So our website is sipmamas.com. That's SIPMAMAS.com. You can get all our products there, the drink specifically, and then yeah, that's where you could find the product. Our Instagram is still in the works. We're gonna start really pushing our marketing now, actually, but I guess we can leave a link in the description.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, sipmamas.com would be where you could find us and learn more about us and keep up to date with what we're doing.